Welcome back to the Anthony Murphy podcast. This is the first episode for the new year, 2023, and we are kicking things off with quite an in-depth interview with John McMahon, the founder of Motivating Boys events. And we've been working, or our agency has been working with John for many years now, and he was in the area for an event, and we got him down to chat about all things in regards to his events, parenting, self-awareness, and a really in-depth conversation, which I think a lot of people, especially if you are a parent or soon to be a parent, will definitely get a lot of value out of this episode. So let's dive straight on in. That episode's coming up next. So welcome back to everybody who's tuning in. Today we're sitting here with John McMahon, aka The Rev from Motivate. And if you've been following any of my content over the years, you've probably seen John pop up every now and again. Full disclosure, Motivate is a partner with AttentionMedia, and we do help John out with his events and his advertising and his marketing. But mate, you've had a couple of events in Shep, or one last night and one tonight. So we thought we'd jump on a podcast. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, mate. Good to be here.
For everybody who is listening in, mate, let's start off with just a bit of a background on your story, mate. Let's kick it off there.
How far do you want to go back?
Well, we can take as long as you like, but yeah, up to you. Up to you. Let's go with the condensed version to start with.
The condensed version.
Yeah.
Born in Belfast in the middle of some massive troubles and violence. Grew up in Scotland. 11 years old, moved to Australia. Scottish and Irish parents, and went through some of the most severe bullying anyone can ever go through in school. Kicked out of 2 high schools, drugs, alcohol. Kicked out of home, and at 19, had my life turned around through an experience with a mentor, and gave me an opportunity to talk about the changes that had taken place about 4 months down the track. And it totally changed the direction of my life. And here we are, 30 years. This is my 30th year working with young people. And it looks so different than what it did 30 years ago. And I'm just as excited about the future as I am about the last 30 years. So.
Yeah. So, and it's funny as well, there's no shortage of podcasts these days, people sharing their story and, that upbringing, the background, the childhood, for many people out there has been quite tough and been quite traumatic. And I think, there's a lot of, for myself, if I think about it, I was very fortunate. I had a great upbringing, solid family, mum and dad, siblings, well looked after. So there was, no severe trauma in sort of my upbringing compared to, what you've sort of experienced. So what do you think, and obviously it's not something that you wish on people, you want people to go through necessarily, but do you think that really sort of has built your character and sort of got you to where you are today? Like the fact that you did have a tough upbringing?
Look, it's a hypothetical, but I can't go back and change anything. And this might sound like it rolls off my tongue easily, but I am grateful for what I experienced and what I went through, because I was able to deal with it and come out the other side. I can't imagine what any other upbringing or experience would have been like. But in saying that, I only share my story as a portion of the event for the purpose of earning the right to say what I then say after it. It's all about earning the right. I don't
It's not
relive. I don't relive that. I'm not a victim of that. But it is my story, and it's what breaks down the resistance and the attitude and the preconceived ideas of young people when they walk into my event. So okay. I can't separate it. It needs to be part of it.
Yeah.
But it's a platform for the rest of the stuff we talk about.
Yeah, 100%. So let's just touch on that too. So obviously Motivate, talk about Motivate and, the business, the company that you've got today. Let's fill people in about what you do right now, and then we can kind of go back and forth and connect the dots.
So majority of what I do right now is run seminars for boys 11 to 17 and their parents. So that is predominantly what Motivate is. And they are in regional centres. We're in Shepparton today, but they are also in some of the biggest cities in Australia, New Zealand. And essentially what we do is create a space for families to be family. There's no tech. There's no devices. They are sitting together in a room for an hour and a half to 2 hours. So that's the majority. I then have schools that once they've jumped through all the hoops of getting me,
Yep.
I have schools that I present in. I love doing that, again, in the right school. Sporting clubs, footy clubs, cricket clubs, rugby, basketball, netball, whatever. And then I do some one-on-one coaching. So
Yep.
parent coaching intensives, no counselling,
Yep.
just direct. They bring me into the situation
Yep.
and, give them advice.
Yep. Perfect. So so obviously, like you said, live events, going to schools, and for like, what is the main thing that is, why are families coming to your event? What are they going to get out of it? What's the sort of problems that they're dealing with? Why would somebody come to a Motivating Boys or a Savage Angel event?
I think one of the major reasons they come is that sense of urgency that they have about the situation that's going on in their own home, fears that they have for the future, signs that they're seeing right now.
Yep.
I think there is confusion. I think many parents live their life online and read way too much and worry about things that they don't have evidence to worry about. You've got parents of 5, 6, and 7-year-olds worrying about things for the future of their kids that they have no evidence of under their nose. And so I think that's one of the reasons. I think just as significant a reason is the social proof, the parent reviews, the teenage reviews of my event. People talk, and that's another reason why they come. And also, while everyone else is zigging in a politically correct, socially acceptable, virtue signaling, woke direction, I am swimming in the opposite direction. And that resonates with parents because deep down they have a sense that things aren't right, but they're afraid to step up. They're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to stand up.
Yep.
And that fear is like, I explain it like expandophone.
Yeah.
It just will fill up every gap that you give it.
Yep. Yeah, I think myself, just to add context to it, so I'm a parent. I have 2 young kids, oldest being 6 and 4. So in terms of, again, looking towards the future and, what the next 10 to 15 years might look like as a parent, I think you bang on. You're always thinking about that. How can I be the best parent possible? Am I doing it the right way? All that sort of stuff. So I think, for your in-person events, it is, it's for the family unit who is either experiencing, generally most of the time, would you say that it's with families who are experiencing some kind of issue or trauma with that parent-child relationship? There's some struggles at home, whether the kids are struggling with self-esteem or it's more behavioural issues. Like that's the sort of thing that draws people to your event, isn't it? Like there's some issues that are going on in the home. The parents aren't having any luck, or they're not sure, or they're just exasperated, and they want some help, and that's why that's what people are coming to your event for.
I would say that there is a 60-20-20 split, if I've got the maths right.
Yep.
20% of the people come to my events about future-proofing. 20% of the people come who are absolutely undone and exasperated with the situation, and 60% are, this is current, I'm seeing some trends, I'm seeing some things happen, and I want to take action now. And generally they are the parents of 11 to 13-year-olds.
Yep.
And they still have a majority of leverage, when it comes to authority with their kids, but it's starting to be manipulated out of their hands. If you go to early parents, so parents of 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, here's what you need to be concerned with, as opposed to all the shit that gets thrown at you. Okay. Let me touch on 2 things. One is tech. Okay. You are the parents of kids who go out to cafes, restaurants, have people over, and your son or your daughter is there for 2 minutes, and then they're on their phone. They've come to you, say, "Can I have the password for this, or can I have that?"
Yep.
And you're like, no worries. And you're thinking in your mind, oh, they'll be on there for 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. But then you look at the clock and 2 hours have gone past. Or the whole meal that you've been out with a couple, another family, you've had an amazing time talking, but the kids are not engaging at all. What's going to happen as a result of that is this inability to regulate.
Yep.
Because they are so used to being saturated in it, and you try pulling that back, and it will be, we're entitled to this because you did it.
Yeah.
Let me give you something completely different. Kids love to get parents love to get their kids into sport, and sport's great.
Yep.
But kids have a hard week, or they have a hard day, or they have a hard game, and all of a sudden they don't love it anymore. They're challenged and all that. For any parents listening of younger kids, playing sport is not about your son or your daughter loving the sport. It's about the experience of going through a season. It's about the journey, the ups and downs. It's about their competencies.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if they can't throw a ball straight, or if they can't, that will come with time. I remember my daughter, Daisy, first game of netball, she was hopeless. And the reason why she was hopeless was she had a constriction in her aorta. And at 7 years old, we discovered this.
Right.
Which meant she would get tired really quickly. And so she didn't like playing sport.
Okay.
And her blood wasn't flowing properly.
Yep.
After surgery, that was all sorted. But when it came to playing sport, her hand-eye coordination was down.
Yep.
So it took a good 3 to 6 months for that to come back up. If we had let her whinging, bitching and complaining dictate, she would have been out before she got a chance to see any different. So playing sport is not about all having fun. It's about what that will produce in you. Even just being exposed to different ages involved in the community group, different parents, different characters. Yep. That is so significant, but yet parents have their kids, they go to school, they come home from school, they do their homework, or they're online. Some of them never actually leave the house to go and hang out in the community, let alone go to sport to train and play.
Yep.
So they're just two things, if you're a parent of a younger kid, that you might want to pay attention.
Yeah, look, and I resonate with that wholeheartedly, because we, again, with younger kids, and obviously I can only speak on my experience, but my wife and I are very much on the same page where, if we are going out to dinner, the kids aren't sitting there on an iPad or a phone. We've always taken them out as well. I think, again, parents' choice. There's a lot of parents out there that won't go out with their kids because, hey, it might be a bit hectic, or we can't relax, we can't enjoy it. That's obviously every parent's choice. But for us, we've always liked to go out for brekkie in the morning, or go out for a nice dinner. And we want the kids to be a part of that as well. They've kind of. I think one of the things as well is, and we'll go to a nice restaurant in the evening, right? Mm-hmm. And as a parent, you walk in with 2 young kids, and at times you can be the only people in there with kids. And I think a lot of parents sort of feel that that pressure or that judgment of why are you taking your kids to this sort of environment or this type of setting, and that can put a lot of people off. And obviously then maybe the electronic device gets dished out so the kids are kept quiet, right? But at the same time, I think in terms of myself with learning and educating myself on being a parent, you have to understand that other people's opinions in the restaurant, if the kids are making a bit of noise, you just need to deal with it. Like that's the reality of life. The kids are allowed to be there, right? So it's about you as a parent being able to, work through those sort of situations yourself. Because at the end of the day, we get compliments all the time on how well our kids behave.
Yeah.
They're not always completely silent. There's going to be some issues, but at the end of the day, we're sort of working them through that process of going out for dinner, being respectful, not running around the restaurant, all that sort of stuff. Like they're learning life skills at the same time. It's not always as super relaxing as it could be, but that's the choice you make. So
and that's it, and that's the stage of life you're in. But people are driven by 2 things: they're driven by fear or love.
Yep.
So you're either driven by love for your kids to involve them in that experience and educate them and have them go through it, or you're driven by fear of what others think. And my partner and I were in Liverpool last year, and we stayed at this amazing hotel and went down for breakfast.
Yep.
Sitting at a window, and this family walk in, and there's 5 of them. All right, all the kids would be under 11, under 12. Buffet breakfast, perfect opportunity to give your kids an experience and educate them, walk them through it. But instead, they all sat down at the table. 3 iPads came out with their beautiful coloured, gel cases.
Yep.
The dad sat on his phone the whole time. The mum got up, went and got breakfast for all 3 kids and placed it in between the iPad and the kid. And then she went and got herself breakfast. And all I wanted to do was jump up and say, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're missing,
Yeah.
I would be really happy for your kids to be laughing, or your kids to be, I was here first. I'm in line. I wanted that.
Yep.
That is normal. This is not normal.
Yeah.
Although it is.
Yes.
But it's not. So,
Yeah.
it's hard, but it's never going to become easy. It's never going to become normal that your kids can walk in and they know how to walk through a buffet. Sounds so simple.
Yes.
But if they can't walk through a buffet, then what can they do?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, it's never going to get any better, because if they've always got the iPad in front of them when they're out at a restaurant or wherever, then they're not learning, exactly how to behave in the environment and how to enjoy it. And it's just always going to be the case where they need that stimulation to keep them quiet.
Yeah. Look, it amazes me. I was down the road here at a cafe, waiting to get a coffee roasted or whatever. And I watched 2 young girls walking down the road, fixated on their phones, almost get hit by a car.
Yeah.
And they're walking together.
Yes.
Yes. But they are not connected. They're not present with each other. And not only that, they're endangering their own life and the lives of other, drivers and things like that. It's funny.
I think we could spend all day talking about the tech side of things and phones, social media, etc. and so forth. But I think one of the things that and obviously having a business that's built around that is there's pros and cons to everything. There's the good side and the dark side. I think the truth is often in the middle. I think we for myself, this type of technology, smartphones, all that sort of stuff only sort of came to be when I was sort of 15, 16. So I didn't have it as a kid. But then with my kids now, it's definitely a thing that is just part and parcel of their everyday life and can be.
Yeah.
And it's about knowing what's too much, and the impact that it has.
Yeah.
So obviously, technology's not going away. It's not going anywhere.
And it's not evil.
And it's not evil, no. But it's the same as anything. You eat too much food, it's not good for you. You drink too much alcohol, it's not good for you. Same thing with technology. If you sit on your phone all day or give your kids a screen all day, it's not good for them. So it's the balance, it's the timing, it's the place.
I was asked about that last night at the event about, So is screens and technology, is it just a no-go zone, or how do you decide? And I said, well, you've known your son for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years. You know what triggers certain emotions and feelings in him. If he's on a game, or if he's even watching videos of other people playing games, and that is triggering thoughts, attitudes, words and behaviour that is contrary to your values, the values that you hold in your home, then don't hesitate to ban it or take it off him. Don't hesitate, because the minute you hesitate, you're in a place of fear. You're worrying about what he thinks. Some parents, and I'm not exaggerating, some parents spend a good hour discussing how they're going to break the news about something to their son.
Yep.
It's like they're preparing to go for a bank loan, we've got to cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's,
Yeah.
For me, my boys are 24 and 22. My daughter's 19. I don't hesitate if I pick up on something,
Yeah.
even now. But
Yeah.
I've done that for years.
Yeah, exactly. Let's dive back. So obviously, hopefully, that gives people a bit of a context around the events and motivating what you do. Let's just jump back and touch on. Is there a couple of stories you can share with us that you might talk about in some of the events that, like you said at the beginning, sort of gives you the ability to break the ice or add context to why you can speak about these things through the experiences that you've had in the past? So, touch on some of that for us.
I've always prided myself on having fresh experiences. I speak, from my most recent growth. And before we jumped on here, we touched on it briefly. So this year, my goal has been to be in peak physical, emotional, and mental state.
Yep.
I turned 51 in December, and I can tell you right now, I have greater endurance. Like I've been smashing my personal best, riding, mountain bike, cycling, all sorts of stuff, and getting uncomfortable to bring that change. And the other day I shared a post online, which was basically about how I've dealt with an attack from my bitch voice. And, even me, Mr. Motivate, I have it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
went to go riding, and three out of my mates had to pull out, and then the weather was turning, it started raining, and I literally, this voice came to my head, said, you don't need to ride today. You don't want to ride in the wet. The tree roots will be slippery.
Yep.
And then the thing that made me recognize what it was said, and you've eaten really well today, so it's not like you need to burn off extra calories.
Yep.
When it said that,
Yep.
I went, I know who you are. So I immediately, and this is key for anyone listening.
Yes.
There's no great strategy. You've just got to move immediately. And so as soon as I recognized that, I jumped up, put the bike rack on the car, put the bike on the back, got my gear, and got in the car in under 5 minutes. So I was gone. Then I was left alone in the car with my bitch voice.
Yep.
And I'm like, you're in trouble now.
Yeah.
Now that I know exactly what this is, and I said, got to the ride park, and pulled a piece of chewy out. And I called this chewy my bitch voice chewy, and I said, for what you've just attempted to do to hijack and to shipwreck my strategy, because I've got a clear goal, and I've got a clear strategy, and I've got accountability for that. For what you just got to do, I'm going to show you exactly how this is going to play.
Yep.
So this might sound too simplistic for people, but I'm a visual person, and I learn by doing things. So I popped this chew in my mouth, did nearly 20 kilometers of cross-country mountain biking, and where I would normally stop and rest for a good 3 to 4 minutes, I just pushed straight on.
Yep.
And I got back to the car park, spat the chewy out, stood on it, and then looked at my time, and I'd taken 10 minutes off my previous best.
Wow.
So for me, this is, I speak from daily personal experience. I believe you're only as strong, as your weakest link.
Yeah.
And I'm attacking the weak links.
Yeah. And I think as I get older, like it's something that I learned. Obviously, that cliche. Well, it's cliche now, seemingly, but get comfortable being uncomfortable. The thing that you're putting off is the thing that you need to be doing the most. It's all the procrastination and the hesitation is, like you said, you call it your bitch voice, you can call it whatever you want. But it's those things that, in that moment of, that there's something that you need to do. And if you're going to put that off, then, that's what I'm always telling myself these days. Like, that's what I've got to do right now.
Mate, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and Craig Harper is one of my mentors in Melbourne, and it's all about mental toughness. Andy Frisella, there's a great list, but you've got your time that you've got to move. If you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. And it was funny because I did that 75 hard challenge last year.
Yep.
And 3 weeks into it, or 2 or 3 weeks into it, I injured my elbow, which
Yep.
meant I couldn't lift. And lifting has been a major part of my life, going to the gym and all that. That was removed. I couldn't ride.
Yeah.
So I couldn't ride dirt bikes. I couldn't ride mountain bikes. I couldn't do any of that. When it happened, I couldn't even lift the keys to the ignition. It was so sore. I ended up doing cardio as all of my workouts. Then tipping over into 2023, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the gym. My elbow's all healed, but I want a different result. And I listened to this podcast a few weeks ago, and he said, you ever seen that person who comes into the gym and they've been coming for 3-5 years and they don't look any different? And I'm thinking, that's me. I'm doing the same thing and I'm not getting the results, so I need to change. So
Yep.
I want to get down to 85 kilos before I head to New Zealand in 2 weeks' time.
Yep.
So I was 92 kilos, you know, at this point.
Yep.
I went, okay, so what do I need to change? I have mocked, laughed, and occasionally maybe yelled something out of a window at cyclists on the road who think they own the road. And, you know, the idea of Lycra and all of that doesn't fit into my brand, which is something I want to talk about. But, but then I've been following MotoGP, World Superbikes, motocross for years, and all of those guys train, you know, on bikes. They cycle and all that. And even here in Australia, you know, Mike Jones and Glenn Allerton, Casey Stoner, they've all cycled and they are absolute guns. And I'm like, you know what? If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So bought myself a bike, bought myself black everything. And
became a mammal, mate.
Became a mammal.
Middle-aged man in Lycra,
And you know, 5 days into it, I got hit by a car. Got taken out going over a crossing, and the bike was, you know, mangled, and got the bike replaced by the guys at Trek and Pakenham. Absolutely amazing what happened there. And but I just did a 50k ride. You know, you're burning 12, 13, 1400 calories in a hit, where at the gym I was doing 400. I'm already seeing results. I'm down to 88.4 kilos. And so why am I talking about this? Talking about getting uncomfortable. You know, and you know, this year, my word for the year is courageous. People want courage who don't need it. Courage is what you need when you make a decision to face your fears. And this year, there are some things that I need to say in my events that I've never said before. There is new insight and information that I need to speak about. And I'll be honest, I'm afraid to say it, but I'm going to say it. And so riding, getting the cycling going, I was afraid to do it. But you know what? I want the result more than the fear will hold me.
100%. And I think, you know, that's one of the things that, you know, and we can tie this back into, you know, technology and social, and, you know, you see the best parts of everybody's lives and everybody's like, you know, super successful and all that sort of stuff. But I think the underlying message is exactly what, you know, we've just spoken about it, that it's if you're wanting to get somewhere, you know, if you're wanting to be in a different position, whether it's physically, mentally, financially, it's not going to be easy. Like, anything worthwhile is not easy, and there are going to be times where you're not going to want to do it. You know, it's not going to be the right conditions. You're not comfortable, but, you know, in order to get to those places, it's generally going to require some kind of white knuckling and just get it done.
100%.
Beautiful. What in terms of, I know there's like you know, several sort of themes and topics that, you know, just your events, but also the things that you live by, you know, whether that's self-awareness, courage, all that sort of stuff. What do you think are some of the things, or what's one thing that you'd like to share with everybody at the moment around, you know, whether it's kids, whether it's parents, but what do you think sort of one underlying theme that people are struggling with, or people are lacking these days, you know, that you can touch on?
I think people lack, personal direction. I think the current is so strong. You know, a few weeks ago we went to Warburton, as the Yarra River starts up there. And I was in there with my partner's kids, and we decided to go down these little rapids. And by the time I realised that the water's really shallow, it was too late. The current was too strong, and to pull back was too hard.
Yep.
But mate, I got my ass smacked by rocks, every 2 meters until I got out. The current is so strong to take parents and to take young guys and girls in this direction. Like current, the amount of reels, the amount of images, the amount of videos that are in people's faces every day. You now have an appetite for something that you never used to have an appetite for. Like when you're young, you hate broccoli and cauliflower and all that, and as you get older, your palate changes, and it's like it's not tech, it's the content that is influencing the change.
Yes.
In young people. So for me, it's being aware of where you're being directed in life, and is this just because you like what's going on doesn't mean to say you're in control of it.
Yeah.
I am so intentional about where I spend my time, what I spend my time doing, and if this doesn't take me closer to my purpose, then it's a no.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's an instant no, not interested. Let me give you one. I've done events up in Darwin. When I spoke with them up there originally, they said to me, look, here's how it works up here. You come once, you come twice, and you come a third time. And when you come the third time, that is when you will start to have success. People are so used to...
In that local area.
People are so used to people not turning up. Advertising going to come and not coming. Or coming and underperforming.
Sure.
So this is what will happen. Mate, we went there, booked out the first event, was immediately requested to come back, and then was inundated with emails for our girls' events. Went back the second time, filled the boys' event and sold out. Fully booked out. But you know what? When I announced I was coming there, I was approached about funding for the event if I would direct it towards Aboriginal community. And I immediately said no. I'm like, no, this event is for everyone. I was criticised online. I had emails sent to me that why I didn't have a first person as a speaker at the event. I'm like, I don't do that anywhere. I'm about to head to New Zealand. I do these things the way I do them. And that is that. But the current, the flow is so strong that people can't stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah, true, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, again, like, you've always mentioned it to me. Yeah, you're not, there's absolutely no discrimination in who comes to your events. Like, it's...
Yeah, and also, I don't want to... I would have to change so much about what I do to articulate it to one particular audience. I get asked, why don't you run events for 7 and 8 year olds, or why don't you run events for 20-year-olds and all that? And I'm like, well, you wouldn't put your 8-year-old in front of me, okay? Because of the swearing and because of the style of my presentation. It will go over their head. Not because it's super intellectual, but because it is hard hitting. But also, I don't apologise for not running events for 20-year-olds and 22-year-olds. They're adults. And someone else can do them.
Exactly.
So that's what I mean. It's about having backbone that's based on your knowing your purpose. So my direction is very clear.
100%. Love that, mate. Let's talk. You've got some big things coming up this year, and obviously, again, sort of in terms of AttentionMedia and Motivate. AttentionMedia helps to handle Motivate's advertising. But talk to us about what you've got planned for this year. There's some big things in the pipeline.
So as I said before, my word for the year is courage. Every year I pick a word that is about development, and I'm taking on some big things. So not only am I doing the big city events in Australia and the regional events in Australia. We're heading to New Zealand on the 12th of February.
Yep.
So doing the North Island. I can't even pronounce properly all the places,
Yes.
but Whangarei, Auckland, Hamilton, Palmerston North,
Yep.
Tauranga, Wellington, and then so we've got events happening over there. We've got Motivate events happening in all those places, and then we've got Savage Angel, the girls' version of Motivate, happening in Auckland and Wellington.
Yep.
Come back and I head to Mildura.
Yes.
And Tassie, and then back to the South Island of New Zealand.
Yes.
So Nelson, Christchurch, Dunedin, and Invercargill.
Perfect.
And there'll be a third trip to New Zealand this year because I've already been approached by some other cities that are missing out on these ones.
Okay.
And then June this year, I'm super excited to be going back to my home country. So
Yep.
I'm going to host an event in Belfast. I'm going to host an event in Edinburgh, Glasgow, Liverpool, and London. And mate, that is, you talk about fear. I know how to run my events, but I've never done anything quite like this. You know,
Yes.
New Zealand is like, it's like Tassie. It's like our next door neighbour.
Very similar. Yep.
And then at the end of the year, probably October, I want to go to the States.
Yep.
And I want to run an event in the hometown of one of my mentors.
Okay.
This is an exclusive. I want to run a free event
Yep.
for he's got 500 staff.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
like to run a free event as a gift for the staff because Andy Frizella has influenced my life so significantly.
Yep.
And so the States and so that's what's going on this year.
Some big stakes. And what, like obviously, as you said, it's you stepping out of your comfort zone as well to go internationally, running international events. Obviously, like you said, you know how to run your events, but again, they've been based, sort of in Australia and New Zealand. So, what are some of the things that, you are worried about or concerned about in terms of going international? What are some of the hurdles that you're having to jump through to make that happen?
Well, they are broad, and there are many. Even things like getting the right visa, an ancestry visa.
True.
Because, I'm an Australian citizen, born in Northern Ireland, but
Yep.
So sorting out some practical things like that, venues.
Yep.
Fears are like. I regularly have imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter where I go. It could be Hobart. It can be Shepparton.
Yep.
And where I feel like, who am I to do this? But that's exactly how our heroes and our idols feel.
Yeah, everybody has that, don't they?
We go to concerts, I think there was
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers and Post Malone are happening right now.
Yep.
And people are raving about these concerts,
Yeah.
It's so much that I jumped online to look at tickets the other day, but
Yeah,
I'm
right.
out of the country.
Yeah.
But I'm no different to them.
No.
And you listening to this are no different from them. You just see yourself different. So I figured if Russell Brand, if Joe Rogan, if Dana White, if they can make things happen, I can make things happen.
Yep.
I've just got to make sure that the value proposition that I bring is valuable.
Yes.
Yeah. And the bigger the event, the bigger value you've got to deliver.
Yep.
I'll never forget. Last year I did an event in Adelaide with, I think we had 380 people. And then year before that, we did an event in Deakin University where 505 people. And it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You have got to bring your A+
Yep.
game. In mountain biking, it's a double black diamond. Like, you have got to articulate, think, and be in the moment and be present. Even public speaking.
Yes.
When you've got 400 people in a room, all of your gestures need to be bigger. Your hand gestures, your movements on stage, the tone, the accents on your face, posture, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I can see it happening.
Yeah.
Like, I literally can see the posts going up after the event.
Yep.
With photos from the events, with reviews, with and
The feedback.
and invites after it. So
Yep.
I'm
Yeah.
pumped about it.
No, that's awesome, mate. And looking forward to it. It's going to be a big year ahead. And I think we've always always been really grateful and and proud to be a part of a small part of what you do, because obviously it's there's a great need for it. You've got a great message in helping thousands upon thousands of people, mate.
I think you undersell yourself though, mate. Like, I remember meeting you, and I'm just going to say this. We were in a meeting the other day with Eventbrite, who run my events, and I said it to them. When I met you, you were the first person I spoke to who knew more about marketing and Facebook and Insta advertising and the dynamics of that than I did, and I had spoken with quite a few other people, and I knew more than them. So I'm not being paid to say this. I've come out of my own time to come and do this.
Yes.
My gratitude for what you're doing and growing with the brand.
Yeah.
Both of our brands growing together.
Yeah, 100%.
Is exciting. And again, I don't mean to blow smoke up your ass or piss in your pocket, and again, if you're listening, this is not planned. You are Motivate. You are the Post Malone. You are the Chili Peppers. AttentionMedia is that monster.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, and everything that you say, I mean, it's no different, the imposter syndrome, all that sort of stuff either, whether I'm creating some social media content or doing a podcast or whatever it might be. Like, there's always those little, there's those moments of nerves or, have I got it right, or am I doing the right thing, or, running a business and employees and all that sort of stuff. But I think, what we often forget is that, again, 99% of the time that we see anybody, whether it's the Joe Rogans, the Andy Frizellas, anybody that's doing anything in life on whatever scale, large or small, they're still human. They're dealing with the same emotions. They're dealing with the same, they're questioning themselves as well. Just because they're at a certain level or they're doing really well, more times that means that the amount of things that they have to question themselves on and that they have imposter syndrome on is even greater. Because they're doing so much. The stakes are higher. There's so much more involved. But they're human.
Mate, I remember my first day at university, my first day sitting there, and we were asked to write down the vision that we have for our futures,
Yep.
And me being the dyslexic person that I am, said, is it okay if I draw it?
Yeah.
And they're like, sure. And so I pulled out a piece of A4 paper and I drew a stage with steps, like 20,000 steps down to the floor, and hundreds and hundreds of people in the audience and me on stage. And I remember being told, no, that's not a vision. That's ego, that's this, that's that, and to do it again. And I'm like, no, fuck you, I'm keeping this, put it in my folder. But you know what? Like, when I have imposter syndrome, there are two things that shut that down. One is my confidence is informed by my data.
Yep.
And my data screams the opposite to the imposter syndrome.
Yep.
And I remind myself, this has been the vision from the start.
Yeah.
And literally, I started Motivate in a 3x3 metre cage at the back of a woodwork room in Canberra College in Melbourne. The room where they stored the whippersnipper motors and the lawnmower motors that kids were working on. That's what they gave me.
Yep.
With a shitty old CBR 600 and about 6 or 7 boys.
Yeah.
But that's, even though I was looking at that and I was in that moment, the auditorium's full of people was always on my mind.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. No, and again, the results speak for themselves. So, mate, I think what we'll do is have to schedule in a catch-up after the international events and run through it, mate. Catch up, hear how it all went, and it's going to be a big year ahead. So I'm excited.
Well, look, if you have, I'm sure some of your listeners are business owners and startups and growing businesses. I plan to document that journey.
Yep.
The journey from running those events, and the whole thing of strategic planning. Having systems in place. it might be of interest to them.
Yeah, 100%.
For a different reason,
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Now, beautiful. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in, mate. All the best with the year ahead, and we'll catch up again soon. So that's it for another episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you love the show, the greatest form of feedback you can give is to leave a review. It helps the show grow, it helps more people find it, and I would really appreciate that. Head over to anthonygmurphy.com where you'll find all the show notes and links for today's episode. And if you just want to stay up to date with me and see what I'm up to, head over to Instagram, Anthony G. Murphy, and say g'day. And I will talk to you in the next episode.